We're finally replacing the engine coolant on my 2008 Prius. Lots of bubbles. First thing we're gonna do is test my coolant. This is a good way to know if you actually need to change your coolant. With the Toyota Super Long Life coolant, it's good for the first 100,000 miles of your car, and then after that you want to change it about every 50,000. So we're gonna test straight from the radiator cap. I haven't driven since yesterday, so it's not gonna be hot. Just take that off. Here we have the acidity. I hope you can see this just fine. And you can see once the pH gets to 6.5, this kit says to replace your coolant. This looks like it's right about at 7, as you can tell by the green here. So right before you need to replace it. And this is important because if your coolant is too acidic, it's gonna start wearing down on parts of your coolant system and maybe even your head gasket. And then this top part is your glycol percent. So I think typically coolant has like a 50% glycol, but as you can see, mine is more like between 60 and 100%. So maybe like 70. And that means that a lot of water has evaporated over time and the glycol percent has gone up. So just based on this alone, it is about time to replace the coolant. Oh, that was tightening. So here we are looking under the driver's side. There's a little plastic panel in the way, and I'm not gonna go over that whole thing, but mine is chopped because I have a skid plate down here. But you need to get that out of the way, and let me show you what it looks like under the driver's side. All right, so down here, this is our coolant heat storage tank. This is part of the Prius where hot coolant is pumped into it after you're done driving. It's stored in an insulated canister for the next time you drive. But as you can see here, this yellow thing, this is your drain plug. Coolant's gonna come out of here. And this is our plug that allows us to operate. So we're gonna unplug it just to be safe so it doesn't go off. And then I'm gonna open this little yellow thing and have a drain pan under for the coolant. Because it's an insulated tank, this coolant can be hot even though I haven't driven in a minute. So we'll see how that goes. The engine coolant system has 3 different drains. There's a drain plug at the engine, one at the radiator, and one under the coolant heat storage tank. But from what I've heard, the one at the coolant heat storage tank is the lowest one, and it might really be the only one you need. So we're gonna drain that first, and then after that, we'll open up the radiator one and see if anything comes out. But I'm hoping this plug is just enough. I don't know how to do this. So unplugging that took me about 10 minutes. On the top, there's this tab. You just have to push it down, push it inward, and then you can pull, but I was just struggling. It's not flowing. Oh, there we go. While that drains, I want to show you the top here. So you'll notice I still have the radiator cap on. If you took it off, it would probably drain faster, but I want to leave it screwed on because that's going to help us to drain out the reserve tank using that kind of vacuum pressure. And then after that's empty, I think I see it going down already, but after this is empty, then we can take off the cap to help everything come out. By the way, huge shout out to Iman is his name. His channel is called Ion Iman, and he's the one whose tutorials I watched to learn how to do this. He has about 4 videos on the Prius engine coolant, everything from the drain, the fill, and the bleeding. I basically took notes on that, and that's how I'm basically figuring out how to do this. So I'll link his channel in the description. If you want a really good in-depth tutorial, I would really recommend watching his. He really explains the system well. But what I found is his videos just get a little bit long, so I thought I could make something more concise. As you can see, we're just draining out. I got lift spacers in the front, which makes it possible to access all this without jacking up the front, but you might have to do that. I don't know. If you had a few less inches, it might be possible. But as you can see, I just got this plastic panel pulled to the side. I actually cut this to help fit my skid plate. But if you didn't have that, you would have more of a full panel, and you're just gonna have to take off enough bolts to get that out of the way. What I'm gonna do now is I'm going to jack up the passenger side to help the coolant flow out. All right, it's been about 30 minutes. Coolant finally stopped draining. If we look at the reading here, we're just over 6 quarts, which is exactly what I expected. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna open that second drain plug on the radiator. It's about right here on the back of the radiator, just to see if anything comes out. There's no way I'm gonna be able to show you this, but back of the radiator, driver's side, kind of up there around some hoses, there's another yellow twisty thing. It looks just like the other one, and I can barely reach it with my fingers. And I'm just gonna try to loosen it up. Let's see if I can, there's just so many hoses in the way. It's a little insane. After about 20 minutes of trying, I couldn't get the radiator drain plug open. I was able to get my hand on it and like try to twist it, but it was just on too tight and I couldn't get pliers to it because the angle was too awkward. So I figured it's like, well, if I loosen it, I'm not gonna be able to tighten it that tight again. And also, I already got my 6 quarts out, so I figured I'm just not gonna bother. So I'm just gonna close off this one right here, and then we'll get back to refilling. One problem I'm having right now is all these flower petals. Basically, there are these trees up here, these cum trees, and they're dropping tons of flower petals. It's kind of pretty, but now we're gonna refill the coolant. What I've got right here is a funnel. The important thing with this funnel is that it's completely round. A lot of funnels have kind of a divot here that allows air to escape while you're refilling. But in this case, you don't want that because this is gonna help us to fill up the system slowly and allow air bubbles to escape. So I've closed the drain plug and I'm gonna put this right into the radiator and we'll start refilling. The shirt out, we just stick it in. And so you wanna push it in until it kind of makes a seal. Be careful with the radiator stem because it's a little fragile. It's literally raining flower petals though, which is honestly a little frustrating just for what I'm doing right now. The other thing to note is I still have the passenger side jacked up. That's going to help the coolant to get down to the bottom of the system at the storage tank and help the bubbles escape at the top. You can just see it bubbling out. I'm gonna fill it up again. This funnel's from Walmart. It was about $2 and it fits perfectly, holds a lot of coolant, so it's just glugging it up. It's just glugging. The nice thing is any flower petals that fall in here are gonna float. Kind of a unique problem that you don't have to worry about probably. So you're gonna need 2 gallons of coolant or about 6 quarts. I'm using the Toyota Super Long Life just because it's easy, but this stuff is a little expensive. Like at the closest dealership, they're charging $30 for a gallon of this, which is kind of expensive. There are alternatives you can find. You just have to make sure it matches the right specs for the Prius. I might as well show you my notes if you want to take a look at them. So here's our drain and refill instructions, and then it starts the bleeding instructions. And then here's our other side, so got a long way to go. Now that it's slowed down a little, what I'm doing is I'm kind of just squeezing some hoses. And this seems to help a little bit. You can kind of hear it burping and stuff. That's the end of 1 gallon. I'm kind of at a loss for how to make this coolant go in. So we're just gonna move on to the bleeding steps. I think that might help us to get more coolant in the system. There are 2 hot spots where air bubbles tend to get stuck in the Prius. The first one is the heater core, which holds the coolant that heats up your cabin air. And that's way far back there, somewhere here, and we're gonna do that second. But the other hotspot is the coolant heat storage tank. And basically what we're gonna do is we're going to force that pump to run, and it's gonna basically pump the coolant through the system and help us to get air bubbles out. And as we do that, we're going to add in more coolant to our funnel. So we're basically gonna leave this in the whole time through the bleeding steps, just so we can get more and more coolant into the system. Here's our relay box right here. Just gonna take the lid off of this. I've got a multimeter here, which is a tool that kind of confuses me. We're gonna take the red plug of my multimeter and we're going to put it into the 10A DC section. The black plug stays in the comm, and we're gonna turn it over to DCA. This is amps, I'm pretty sure. Direct current amps. We're gonna set it to 20 M, which is like milliamps, I'm pretty sure. And we're gonna turn it on. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna pull out this fourth relay, just unplugs, and you'll see there are 2 copper prongs, and that's where we're gonna jump it from. So not the silver prongs, but the copper prongs, which is the 2 upper spots. Your 12-volt battery needs to be plugged in to do this. You don't want to run the pump for too long continuously, or you could overheat it, especially if there's air bubbles and that kind of thing. We're gonna run it for 15 seconds at a time max. Let's just stick it in. Okay, it's running. And what you'll see, or if you can't see it, is that the voltage or the amperage it's pulling is fluctuating a ton. That seemed to help a lot. We're already getting a lot of gurgling here. Oh wow, I actually need to refill it. I'm a complete amateur at this stuff, so honestly, like, I'm demonstrating to you what I'm doing here, but don't take this as gospel. If you're gonna work on your own car, you know, do it at your own risk, do a little research, be careful. But how bad can it be? As long as you get coolant back in the system, what's the worst that could happen? That was my radiator cap. It's gurgling a lot, which is a good sign. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait for this to stop bubbling, because there's no use in running the pump again if it's still helping to bleed the system. Just helps to give it more time to rest. So okay, so here's where I'm at with this is this, I've been jumping it, and you know, it's supposed to read 4, but it's still been reading like 5 and jumping around a little bit, hasn't been consistent. But the thing is, I already put the 6 quarts back in the system, so I think I'm just gonna move on to the next step of bleeding the heater core, and then I could always come back to this step later pretty easily if I needed to. We'll just plug the relay back in, copper side up. Okay, don't forget this step. I'm gonna plug back in that plug we unplugged earlier. If you don't do that, you're gonna get a check engine light when you start your car. Got it. I'm also gonna lower the jack down so I can get in the car. So now we need to bleed the air out of the heater core. We're going to run the engine continuously and blow the hot air. This is gonna make sure that the coolant loop includes the heater core and hopefully push any air bubbles through the system, help them get to that funnel and let any more coolant fall in that needs to. Now the problem with the Prius, as you know, is that the engine doesn't run continuously. So what I'm gonna do is put it in maintenance mode, and I believe that makes the engine run continuously. So let me show you how to do that. It's pretty simple. Actually, it's not simple. It's like a video game cheat code. So you're gonna press the power button twice to put it in accessory mode. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold my foot on the brake, and I'm gonna press the gas pedal in and release twice. Then I'm gonna put it in neutral. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna put it in park, do the same thing, pressing that pedal twice, and then we're gonna hold the brake and turn it on. And now see, it says problem, and you see this symbol. That means we're in maintenance mode and the engine's gonna run continuously. So on here we got engine coolant temperature. Right now we're at 104 Fahrenheit. The operating temperature for a Prius is about 190 to 195 degrees Fahrenheit. So once we get to that point, the thermostat's gonna change positions, and that's gonna allow air to circulate through the heater core and all that kind of thing. So we need to allow it to run until it heats up to that 190, is turn the heat on as high as possible. So we're gonna put it on high. We're gonna turn the AC off, and I'm gonna hold the temperature up to the highest point. There is a bleeder valve for the radiator right here, and it says, never open valve when hot. And if you just look right down into this hole, there's a hex head, little plastic screw, and then right under this hose, there's a small plastic spout. Okay, it's 6 millimeters. So the engine is now warm. It was actually maxing out at about 175 to 180. but I found that this needed a couple turns to get going. And I'm just opening it up a little more. And now the coolant is really flowing. And then the other thing you can do is keep squeezing coolant hoses, but it is gonna be hot and there's stuff moving around, so maybe I'll just squeeze this one. Lots of bubbles. Oh shoot, the expansion tank is actually full. This was the moment that chaos ensued. Oh shoot, the expansion tank is actually full. I thought it would be good to clear up my mistakes here because I did things wrong at this part. So first of all, the tube shouldn't go to the expansion tank. It should go back into your funnel. Because with the expansion tank, there's nowhere for the coolant to go. You want to keep circulating it back into the radiator. And at this point, my footage just got a little chaotic, and I think it would be better, honestly, to just explain the process because it's pretty simple. So what you're gonna do is you're going to run your car in maintenance mode and let it heat up, and then you're going to run it for about 30 minutes maybe. And during that time, there are a few different methods you're gonna use to help you get all the air bubbles out. The first one, oh shoot. The first one is you're gonna run the heat the whole time because this makes sure that the heater core is part of the coolant loop. The next method is by squeezing coolant hoses. The most effective hose I found is the one that's right below the radiator stem, but you wanna be careful with that one while the engine's running because there is a belt right by it and it can get pretty hot. But I found that was pretty effective. It kind of works like a plunger where you just squeeze it and a lot of air bubbles will come out. And then obviously our last method is that bleeder screw. But the problem I found is that the 1/4 inch inner diameter tubing was too big to fit onto there. And I was losing a lot of coolant out of there. That's the reason that I went through 2 full gallons of coolant because I didn't realize I was dripping it out from there. So I can't tell you the exact size you need, but if I had to guess, it's probably a 3/16 or a 1/8 inch inner diameter vinyl tube. So if anyone knows that exact size you need, let us know in the comment section. That would be super helpful. What I ended up doing is just bleeding that screw without a tube. So I would just open it up and look at the spout until fluid came out and close it. And I would just do that every few minutes, just allowing any air bubbles to escape. You'd probably get a lot better result using the tube so you can circulate it for multiple minutes and really leave it open. But I feel like I was safe there. So don't do what I did. There is kind of a lot going on at that time, but basically the goal is don't let your engine overheat, get the bubbles out, and don't spill too much coolant. So I hope that's helpful. Let's get back to the video. So, important thing here that I learned, you want the radiator pretty much full to the very top. It's gonna be hot probably. We have our expansion tank about halfway between the empty and full. Somewhere like that. And so what's gonna happen, system's gonna cool down, the coolant's gonna contract. And hopefully what happens with that is that when everything shrinks in the coolant system, it pulls it down through the stem. And if it needs more, because there's no air in it, it's full to the very top, it'll pull from this tank, the reserve tank. In terms of follow-up, there are a few things you want to do to make sure your engine doesn't blow up. So what I'll be doing over my next few drives is every time the engine's cold, I'll just open up the radiator cap, make sure it's topped off. If your level has gone down a little bit, that means you probably have some air bubbles in the system, but topping it off is getting that air out of the system. Next up, when I'm driving, I'm gonna monitor my engine temperature with the scanner just to make sure it doesn't overheat. Usually you shouldn't be going above like 210 Fahrenheit. If I went above that, I would probably just turn off the engine immediately just to be safe. And then last of all, run your cabin heat while you're driving. You should be getting consistent hot heat after the engine warms up. If not, that means that coolant is not flowing through your heater core, which is a problem. Doing all of these things just ensures that you're good to go after doing your bleeding. You're never gonna get it perfect, but The good thing I found out is that the system is partially self-bleeding, so air bubbles will eventually make their way to the reserve tank. At least small bubbles. If you have any large bubbles, they can actually still be a problem. So, but I'm pretty confident that I'll be good. But I just wanted to let you guys know, if you follow my channel for the Prius content, I wanted to let you know that I'm gonna be kind of moving away from that, because I mainly want to make content about sustainability. That's really my main thing, is like, I want to talk about how we can live intentionally, independently, and harmoniously with nature, basically. And while the Prius is kind of an extension of that, it's just, I want to focus on stuff that's a little more timeless and a little more in tune with the message I'm trying to spread. So yeah, if you found me through the Prius content, feel free to follow along for that journey, but don't expect too many more maintenance videos, because I'm mostly going to be moving away from that. One last thing, a little shameless self-plug. So I designed a couple products for the Prius. I made these in Fusion Studio. This is a water bottle holder. It slides into this drawer here, and it will hold your hydro flask, your Awala, whatever, because you know they won't fit in these cup holders. And it's really great because now you can hold 3 separate drinks up here if you need to. And then also you have the secret drawer storage down here still. So holds itself really securely. And then also we've got in here, we've got a center console organizer. It just slides right into here, and it has a few different compartments. So I've got like hand sanitizer, mints, pens, but it also kind of separates it. So back here I can have some wet wipes, maybe some quarters, but then I still am able to keep my aux cord and my charger plugged in. So if you want to support, check out the Etsy shop. It's in my description. I 3D print these and ship them straight to you. So you're supporting small business and helping me to keep making content. Thank you to everyone who followed along with all these Prius videos. I'm glad that I was able to help some people out with my content, but I really just want to move in a new direction. So thanks for sticking it out to the end, and hope this helps. See ya.